Here's an idea. Why not give students the time and tools needed to remember information at the end of each lesson? Doesn't that just make sense to allow students the time to actually think about what they just learned? Not only do students need this time, but so do teachers. It's time well spent. Cap notes were created to aid teachers in the lesson planning process and save them precious time in doing so. Cap notes were originally made for students who use them as a rote memory tool. But now, cap notes are used by students to summarize their daily lessons and draft questions and activities for the way game. So what's with all the questions? I just want to illustrate a little bit of what is expected of students in a single lesson. A metaphor of waves comes to mind, with waves of information coming at them. Is it any wonder that it's difficult for students to answer the cap note challenge? What did you learn in school today? We can't afford an education system that doesn't work as well as it could. A few simple changes in procedures can yield great results. Here are the main parts of a cap note. The first section is about who wrote the cap note and when it was written, and who helped. A score may be entered later. There are 7 notes for 7 lessons, and the third section is for drafting questions and activities for the way game. Cap notes are graphic organizers. They are a 10-step lesson creation and lesson summary tool for teachers and students. Let me unpack that idea for you. CAP is an abbreviated acronym. It stands for Curriculum Content, Associations, Processes, and Pictographs. CAP notes model whole brain learning, stimulating the logical left hemisphere in the brain, and pictographs stimulate the creative right side of the brain, resulting in more neural pathways being created. Now we start the 10-step process in creating cap notes. Step 1. Enter your name, date, and day if your school is on a 6-day cycle. The second box is for your partner's initials if one was assigned. A score may be entered later if you decide to evaluate cap. Step 2. Integration of subjects. Integration is a way to get through curriculum demands, and don't worry about it, just do your best. The expectations, the number of concepts presented in curriculum can be overwhelming, or at least that's been my experience. Make students aware that no subject is an island unto itself. I like to think of the class's project first. Then I look to see how the curriculum can fit. Step 3. Write the curriculum content or concept here. The main idea has to be clear in the teacher's mind if we want the concept to be clear in the minds of students. Step 4. Creating associations. Associations are words or phrases that reinforce and extend the ideas presented in the curriculum. Keep associations short. The number 4 represents the 4 tools of a smart way to learn: cap notes, game cards, way cards, and Pathfinder. Also, ASK stands for attitudes, skills, and knowledge, which are the pillars of curriculum, just not in the traditional order. I encourage teachers to always begin lessons with why. Teachers must stimulate a student's attitude before meaningful learning can take place. Step 5. Pictographs. Pictographs can be symbols, shapes, doodles, thumbnail sketches, numbers, letters, or any combination of these. Students create graphic representations or pictographs to extend and reinforce the main ideas in a lesson. This can be challenging. Step 6. Processes. Processes are how the lesson is taught. Think of a process as an activity. There are 13 processes. Each represents what teachers do in a lesson. Each cap note has a key to the 13 processes on the bottom of the sheet. Number processes in order of presentation. Step 7. If you write in a notebook, Make a notebook page reference number here. Students should number their notebook pages so it makes stuff easy to find. Step 8. There is a timeline for each lesson. Time and process symbols are related. Show how much time was given to each activity. So, number 1 relates to the first line, number 2 represents the second section. Step 9. This is where a student evaluates the lesson. Students can evaluate their effort in a lesson with a circle, or evaluate the lesson itself with a square. Students can do one, or the other, or both. Step 10. Creating questions and activities for the way game motivates students because they are creating something of value for others. Want to be happy? Learn to serve others based on your natural gifts and talents. Cap notes encourage holistic thinking. Here's an example. The 7 skill-based games are inspired by Howard Gardner's work on multiple intelligence. The games encourage students to look at topics of studies from multiple perspectives. Answer It, the first game, encourages students to think like teachers by creating short answer questions. In the second game, Act It, players are asked to improvise a scene. Third is Draw It. Students represent ideas graphically with Draw It. The fourth game is Spell It. In Spell It, students identify key vocabulary words related to a topic by spelling them. Students learn to question more effectively with Question It, which is the fifth game. The sixth game is Speak It. This is where debating skills are developed. In the seventh game, physical or musical activities associated with a topic are created with a game called Move It. In the end, and when appropriate, students are encouraged to look at their lessons from a number of different perspectives, which leads to empathy and a deeper understanding of the topic. Steps 1 to 10. In the end, teachers and students have a common tool to process information with. Students have time to digest lessons and process information based on principles of how students learn naturally, all the while serving others in a cooperative, respectful, and fun environment. This is a CapNote rubric. It's for self, peer, or teacher evaluation. I used to ask students to submit their best CapNote for a teacher evaluation once a term, but it's optional. So a CapNote graphic organizer is two-sided. You'll need 30 sheets per term per student over 3 terms. You don't want students to carry a full year's worth of CapNotes. You can print them off yourself and distribute them to students, which I found to be a pain, or you can order them on this site. We'll just send the CapNote sheets. Most students already have binders, so to save money and resources, we encourage students to use their own binders. So this is a sample of the Q&A side of a game card. I asked students to make 3 questions or activities per game. Game cards are created for homework. Students made 1 card per week, due on Tuesdays, and evaluated on Fridays when we played a full round of the way game on Friday afternoon. But when you play is up to your teacher. Since we use CapNotes to make game cards, I thought I'd show you what a game card template looks like. Once again, there'll be a lesson on creating game cards later. This template was created with the program Pages for Apple users. Here's a game card template for Microsoft Word users. It's created with a version from 2011. Here's an example of Q&As taken from this lesson. Keep Q&As simple and short. Make sure to fill in your name and date. Once completed, simply copy and paste the text to the other 2 cards, then decorate with graphics related to the topics. There's so much thought that goes into the creation of game cards that I call my students' game cards works of art and science. I can't wait to see what other students will create. At the end of the year, Each student will have a set of game cards that they made, as well as a set of sharing cards from their classmates. Just think of what it could be like if you had a set of game cards for each year you went to school. Teachers use smart lesson planning templates, which contain cap notes, as a guide to plan their lessons. By using these templates, I was able to plan more effectively while gathering great resources as my students and I built lessons together. We collected student work samples, pictures of group projects, URLs to the sites we visited. Essentially anything that was written on the board or handed out was now included in our lessons. Smart lesson planning is the smart in the title of our project called A Smart Way to Learn. I built my lessons so that they could be preserved, built upon, and shared, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel each year. At the end of the day, I would post my lessons in a PDF format for parents and students on eBoard, which was the class website. This was one way I made our work, our classroom, more transparent. So you might be thinking, if this is so good, why aren't all teachers using it? The answer is simple, because until recently, the technology didn't exist.